Welcome to Still Are the Tims. A whole tone like a Corleone. No more fucking with the homegrown. Right, so let's get into this. Red Star Belgrade, Wednesday. Davey, your thoughts on it?
Two ways to look at it. You can go and say in the easy games in Europe and take a point away from home and be happy with that, or you can look at it and say, well, if you take your chances, if you're a bit more forward thinking, then you come away with all 3 points. So the performance wasn't too bad. We missed a couple of good chances. If you're going to win these games, you have to take. But be all and end all, we didn't get beat, which is what you went into the game and probably taking the point.
Naz, a lot of talk about it being a hostile atmosphere and all that. What was your take on it?
Yeah, so obviously traveling to Belgrade, you're expecting it to be, as you say, from the images that you conjured up, there'll be like stands full of flares and some baying fans that are looking to kick off. But when I seen the stadium, it looked really impressive. But I think they've deliberately designed it so that the fans aren't right on top of the pitch because I was expecting it to be a lot more close in. I'll be honest with you, I couldn't have told you what the actual stadium looked like, but from what I heard, it was supposed to be one of these kind of like old school intimidating places. But updated stadium, and certainly their fans put on an impressive display behind one of the goals, but nowhere near full. So I don't know whether they'll suffer from we'll suffer. If you're not in the Champions League, maybe not getting the other fans that aren't ultras out, and that could have contributed to the atmosphere as well.
Davey, I thought for a minute there we were on an architecture podcast when we started going on about that stadium. It was a pretty dismal first half for Celtic. Obviously better in the second half, Davey. We created a few chances in a really like a 10-minute spell. But without mentioning today yet, is this going to be a feature of the season, us missing chances?
I think so, Paul. I mean, you're hoping that the big Iheanacho might be the man that's going to be the person to change that. That game in midweek, you look at the Carter Vickers header in the first half, which you should 100% have buried. That
Oh,
was our only chance there. And then we had the wee spell where Nygren shot straight at the keeper. Carter Vickers again with a header. And just before the big man got his goal, had a good chance too. So I don't want to go too forward into the pod because no doubt we're going to discuss that later on. But you could look at it and say quite frustrating when you break things down for midweek there as well. So I'm more in the camp we should have won that game, to be perfectly honest with you.
where is this camp?
Well, you're either going to be in that one or that one, aren't you?
Well, I just thought there was an actual location of people who all thought we could win the game, like, you know. We've got enough problems with that already. Fucking these wankers and Union Jacks everywhere.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
But you said that about the Champions League, Naz. Did you notice a kind of drop off in the quality of opponent?
I was expecting a tougher test
Yeah.
with Belgium, to be honest with you, from what I'd heard of them. And to be honest with you, kind of going back onto Davy's question about obviously the performance, I thought they were there to be taken. If this had been last year and we had that team that was in the Champions League, I reckon we would have had that away victory and we would have had a couple of goals easily.
Aye, I mean, actually, Red Star Belgrade. I mean, take a point, whatever, but they feature in the book, which we'll talk about in a bit, in Monball, because it was a pivotal moment with the Huns, and it was funny because when they scouted Red Star Belgrade in 1990, the Huns, it was Walter Smith that done it. Souness was still there. And when he came back, Souness says to him, "So, what do you think?" He says, "We've got absolutely no fucking chance." And that proved to be right because they got absolutely annihilated. Prozanicki, who I think smoked 20 fags before, during, and after the game sometimes, ran riot. But aye, so it was, I suppose it's a platform to build on in terms of the Europa League and all that, but I fear that, and we'll probably come on to it next week and whatever, the Europa League's going to be a wee bit a dead rubber for us because of the other events. So onwards to Saturday today, and I was just saying to Davey Naz, I just saw Brendan Rodgers' post-match interview, and he said he was delighted with the performance. Were you?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I through circumstances, missed the first half. I caught the last 5 minutes or so, but it didn't look too impressive. I'd caught up some of the messages just to see side to side, backwards passing, that kind of a thing. So I was expecting a bit of a bit more of a reaction in the second half, and as games have shown, we're basically writing off 45 minutes of football, just faffing about, just tippy-tappy around the back, horseshoe death, uh, possession, safety for safety's sake. Um, it wasn't probably till about 70th minute that we started kind of ramping the pace, but all credit to the man in black who blew fouls left, right, and centre
Oh,
and
aye,
killed every fucking bit of momentum we tried to build up,
aye,
and
aye.
I was ready to destroy another telly.
Well, that
Another
I mean,
one.
I know talking about books all the time, but when I was doing anyone but Celtic, and one of the sources was telling me how a referee controls a game to his benefit, that is exactly what Don Robertson done today.
Yep.
First of all, we probably should have phoned the Royal Infirmary in Glasgow to check all the Hibs players' injuries, because they
Oh,
were doing that much. I mean, they must be battered and bruised, like. But before I come to you, Dave, I should explain the only reason we've got the Brothers Grimm only tonight is because Phelan pulled out at the last minute, done a Gary Gillespie or various other sick notes kind of thing, and we will be monitoring him because if basically you pull out this pod, you didn't leave the house for a day. It's as simple as that, Davey. I think you're quite firm on that. But I know you were frustrated as well, Davey, with the game in general.
100%, Paul. I mean, just quickly to touch on the dark arts of the refereeing. I mean, we all know that it's no all about the big decisions. It's
No.
exactly what Robertson done today. It was every time they're clearing their ball out, it's going up to just before the halfway line. The boy goes down and gets a foul. The time wasting that they done, and then only 4 minutes injury time.
Well,
Uh,
did they not bring across their captain, Martin Boyle, and warn them about
yes,
the time wasting, and yet
exactly
there was
that.
no anything done? And to your point, Davey, before you go on, there was an incident about 20 minutes to go where Scales challenged the boy at the main stand, and
Yes,
Don Robertson had his hand gone forward before Scales had even made the tackle,
hundred
which was,
percent.
it was unbelievable. But that
Yeah,
was it. It was just, and he's very much of that Kevin Clancy, dour, expressionless, emotionless, just hands pointed, don't even dare question me. He reminds me about Peter McAllister, actually.
big double denim.
Aye, aye. But anyway, carry on with your analysis.
Well, just on that point, like you say with Scales, I mean, and he's got his linesman on that side of the park, Paul, who it's plain to see has got the Hibs boys got a hold of Scales' shorts, and I know that's the done thing in football, but the only time that these guys, Robertsons and your Stevie McLeans and whatever, that they show a bit of balls to make that decision and upset the crowd is when it's a Celtic player that's involved, and when it's
Aye,
a
I mean,
it's a
the thing
premeditated decision, like you say.
the thing about Scales is, as I've said it many times, Scales needs the game in front of him.
Yes,
And when it goes past him, I mean, you can't do that, right? But to then back that up with the Carter Vickers one, where it was a clean tackle, cleanly played the ball, and you're just like, what the, it's
they
these
got a
kind of
booking
things.
into the
But
bargain.
but but
uh,
to me, that lends in well with. But it's okay if the referee's doing that, right? We expect it, but you have to challenge it.
100%.
Your captain at very least was, come on, what's going on here? I've gone down here left, right, and centre, giving them everything.
Hmm.
There was at least 3 occasions that Martin Boyle went down, and I know he's a notorious diver at the best of times, and there wasn't even any contact. But he
No,
was just falling to the deck and getting a foul, and it's frustrating. But Naz, there was obviously a protest, or at least a planned protest, for to be silent for the 12th minute. I mean, did you think that came across at all?
having missed the first half, obviously, I've not been able
Oh,
to chat
well.
to look back, so I was relying on you guys to obviously
Oh
fill
well,
me in.
I'll pretend I never said that. So there was a protest, or at least planned one, Davy. Do you think it came across?
Not in the slightest, to be perfectly honest with you, Paul, because I think with the tempo of the game, we've been as lacklustre as it was. That would be the what you'd expect at that time as well. There was nothing to get excited about, so it was hardly noticeable, to be perfectly honest with you. And something we've spoke about is, you know, that I don't think that that's personally the right way to go about things, but we'll see in the next two games if it's
Yeah.
got any effect again.
Yeah, I had my reservations as well because I didn't think it would have anywhere near the impact of the Partick Thistle one, which had a
Yes.
massive visual impact and came across really well. And I kind of thought that it's difficult to get the word out, right? You might think you've got every base covered and all that, but then your people probably got no idea what's going on or whatever.
Mhm.
Secondly, I don't think the board will care.
No.
I don't care. I think the board would care if the stadium was silent for the 90 minutes, as long as they paid the money and went in. That's all they care about. What I'd say was hypothetically, like if you want to get to the people at board, the three that's been targeted, Lawwell, Mackay, and Nicholson, you have to get to their lifestyles. Now, I'm not suggesting anything untoward, but things like hypothetically blocking the executive car park. If you put
Mhm.
25 bodies along that entrance and they can't get in there, by God, they would be pissed off by that.
Yep.
Because their whole thing, I've said it before, is they've done nothing wrong. We issued a statement explaining to all you dafties that didn't understand the transfer window, and
Mhm.
that's it. And people say, well, they've not responded to the open letter and all that. Of course they haven't. You've only got to read the statement that Naz posted last night regarding the incident at the Celtic Sevco game in March, right? 6 months they've had time on that.
Mhm.
And there's like, well, we're going to seek to do this and seek to do that and clarify this. What have you been doing for the last 6 months?
Yep.
Or maybe did you just rush that out in the hope that it would engage the supporters? Because obviously they wanted to talk to various people about it. But that backfired. And that's the thing, Naz. You're basically banging your head against a brick wall, wanting that board to do anything.
No, absolutely. And this one of the main things is they've got the season ticket money, they've got the money up front, they've got cash in the bank.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be a short-term fix. I don't even think it's going to be a medium-term fix. We're in this for the long haul. There's going to be things that we've seen done on the hop. Kilmarnock, there was mixed reaction. It seems to be that anything that affects the going to the game or backing the team, support the team, sack the board, isn't gonna work, or it's not being bought into as yet. As you quite rightly said, the visual impact of Fir Hill, with like just about every single person, I know there's a few that obviously didn't, were holding up the banners. The visual impact of that, you seen people when they were focusing in on Mackay and the other one, the CEO,
Nicholson.
Nicholson, yeah, and pretending to look at their phones. Apparently, it's not been lip read yet, but apparently Mackay had dropped a wee F word there, allegedly. But just to kind of go back on your point there about putting pressure on him, I don't know if I'd been mentioned to you before. Normally, when I'm hanging about after the game, they put out barriers and things like that, so to kind of control the crowd. I've never noticed it before, and it was a good few weeks back. I actually seen them put barriers all the way up to the car park. As from what I'd seen before.
Aye,
So,
aye.
like, so I don't know if that's always been the case, but I did notice it one week when I was kind of hanging back there. Now, you might not
Well,
be able to block the car park, but I'll tell you something. If you've got at least 50 disgruntled fans either side of that, giving them the walk of shame,
yes, yeah.
that's gonna
Well,
work as well.
what I can add to that is at the Livingston game, um, they were worried that Michael Nicholson in particular could be targeted. And so what they basically had was people in plain clothes around that entrance to the car park to the main stand, right? And I think we said it at the pod at the time. The only thing I was there at the time, and the only thing I saw or heard was somebody saying, "Get the fucking finger out, Michael," which again he never responded to or anything like that. But it's a weird thing in football now. I think I'll take you back to December '93 in the Celts for Change campaign. I was at a meeting in Glasgow, like a public meeting, and there was guys left, right and centre calling for a boycott of the games. We need to starve them out and all that, right? And the committee, apart from one guy who I think left the committee because of this, were saying, no, it's too early to call for a boycott, because you need to get the word out. You might think you're talking to everybody and everybody's on the same page as you and all that, but it's not. And instead, what they did that time was they put a billboard up that was basically on London Road, pretty much where the ticket office is now. And it had on it, wanted for gross mismanagement, and it had all the board members on it, right? It was a massive visual impact at a time before internet and all that kind of stuff. And it's not a criticism of the fans collective, far from it, because they are literally sort of easing themselves into this kind of thing. And but what I would say, and I've seen the evidence of this, and I've heard evidence already, is don't think the board will just sit back and take this. They will do anything and everything to besmirch the people involved, discredit the people involved, and all that kind of stuff, because that's how they operate. You know what I mean? That's how Lawwell operated. I remember being in a meeting in 2006 talking about David Murray, right? And Lawwell says, he says, you need to watch him. He says, he trades in information, That's all he's done, Lawwell, since he's been in Celtic Park, you know what I mean? He was basically the PR department in Celtic Football Club, Whereas you've got Ian Jamieson, who's been there for about 300 years. And he'd be saying, we've got to do this, and Lawwell would just go, no, we're not doing that, like at the last minute. And then he's like, if anybody wants to talk to you about phone me. And he'd be the one talking to journalists and briefing journalists and all that kind of thing. And so, bit by bit, that's been eradicated. But it doesn't mean that he can't still do that, as we know with the Sun trying to fucking discredit Brendan Rodgers and that kind of thing. So that's all going to be... have to be watched, because, as I said before, this might be the start of a long season for Celtic, because we've seen it today. Every team's got to come and do what Hibs done today, right? Sit deep, try and hit us on the counter-attack. I will avoid using the low block hipster phrases and all that, right? And everybody's got to do that. Now, Hibs have got to get better than people, because they've got better players, right? They've got decent defenders, experienced defenders, and they've got guys up front that can do damage and whatever, right? But are we going to have the cutting edge, Davey, to cope with that, especially at home?
No, definitely no, Paul. I mean, we spoke about it. We got lucky, really, with Luke McCowan's deflected goal on day one against St Mirren.
Very seen.
We've seen the performances have been turgid, to say the least. We've not got the magician. I mean, Hatate was out the team today, but I mean, apart from his goal at Pataudry and a wee 20-minute spell down at Kilmarnock where he looked as if he was up for it, we've not got that one player that we need in these kind of situations to turn and break down a team like that. And it's worrying. It's really worrying. I'll just like to say one wee thing though, Paul, if you don't mind as well, going back to the board no taking things on. I don't know if you've noticed that. I mean, Celtic TV was as shite as ever the day, so I watched most of the match on Hibs TV, and what I picked up on was that there wasn't many cameras going out of that corner of the stand with the Green Brigade. I caught a glimpse of the banners that were at Thistle once today, where they had the perpetrators and their
never
signs.
been on the director's box either.
No,
If
the day,
anybody thinks that's just coincidence, that's what I was talking about. But to go back to what Davey was saying about Hatate, Naz, Arnie Engels, how many chances is that guy going to get?
The problem for Engels is he's not started this season well. There's the Negrin's kind of taken up his slot. He's a young boy, and maybe with a run of games he might get there. But to be honest with you, the Negrin and Hatate haven't exactly set the heather on fire when they've been playing either. So a lot of the problems are obviously the fact that the board haven't backed the team, but there's a lot of blame to go around within the manager and the squad as well. Brendan Rodgers a few weeks back talked about competition for places. but he's the one that's not rotating that midfield. He did it today, but I think it might have been down to injury because Hatate was on the bench. I've not heard if there's been an injury. I didn't see anything.
He's got an injury on Wednesday.
Okay, so rather than rotate him and rest him, he's playing him in games. He's done the same with other players, and then first chance he gets, the man of the match on the last game was Donovan at right back. And where was he today?
Well, I thought we were crying out for that. The change should have been Donovan for Ralston.
Yeah.
Ralston wasn't overlapping Maeda at any point. And James Forrest came on and possibly had his worst game in a Celtic shirt where he kept passing the ball to Hibs players all the time.
Yes.
It just wasn't functioning on that time. The Hibs are doubling up on Seba, and so you're like, well, somebody's got to take advantage of that. Sarachi was kind of taking advantage of that, but the midfield wasn't on his wavelength. You know what I mean? He was basically becoming an inverted fullback. And you're kind of like, you know, and see, going McGregor just doesn't have any impact on games. You know? It's backwards, sideways, and all that, and it's not going to do anything. And it's.
Paul, I tell you, the best game that we had, and when he did mix it up, was the Livingston game. When he started with Bernardo, he had Engels playing that game, and I thought that was the most kind of progressive. The boys looked like they took a chance, and then right after that, bombed right back out. No rotation, no chances to get the team unless there's an injury. And you must be thinking those boys must be like Maeda, fed up and wanting to go, because there's something.
There must be an issue with Paulo Bernardo, because how on earth he can be behind McCowan and Engels is beyond me. Like when we were struggling last season, it was Paulo Bernardo that stepped up at Dens Park and against Sevcote Celtic Park and all that kind of thing, right? He knows the game, he knows the dark arts of the game. And McCowan, I mean, and Engels, the two of them in the first half, I'm just like, are they even playing? You know, what exactly are they doing? But it was frustrating, as I say, and it was frustrating to hear Brendan Rodgers try to polish a turd, because it just wasn't good enough. I didn't care if it was Hibs or whoever. But, well, as I say, there's probably be a shorter podcast because of that Judas fuck failing tonight. But whilst I hope Naz can get the questions ready that he substituted the last time for Phelan when he done a fucking Gary Gillespie.
Let me just get into Facebook there.
Yeah, you didn't need to get running commentary when you're doing it, like. Davey, finally, after a lot of shit, I have this to show.
Fantastic. There you go, after a long wait.
Now, I'll just give a wee kind of sidebar as to what's been going on, and this pretty much started with On Robert Kelly's Doorstep, right? So, On Robert Kelly's Doorstep was the kind of first challenging book I'd done since 2018. By challenging, I mean challenging narratives and things that had happened, right? And it caused a lot of people within Celtic and people who sort of, you know, cling to their apron strings, sort of a wee bit, you know, chagrin for them, because basically I said in the book that Celtic wasn't just formed for charitable reasons, right? It was formed as well to protect the identity and promote the culture and the poetry and the language and the colours and all that kind of stuff, right? Now, that sent alarm bells ringing who at Celtic who will tell you, no, it was just all about charity, right? It was because they didn't want to have any excuse for fans to sing rebel songs, basically. In a nutshell, that's it. And of course, the fans will never stop that, right? And with the book itself, that was no real issue. But when the film came out, as I'll remember, we launched it on YouTube. We got 13,000 views in the first week, and none since. Not one, right? So I was kind of like, what the you know, all right, people might not like it or whatever, but not one view in almost a year now. And through a bit investigation and, you know, surreptitious kind of findings, that basically someone within Celtic put a complaint in about it, and it stopped the algorithm dead. So it's no appearing on anybody's timelines or anything like that or nothing. And also, when people are watching it, it's not registering it, right? So I was kind of like, that's a bit strange. Now, I know that someone within the Celtic report tried a campaign against it privately, because they contacted many people, most of whom then sent me the message and said, do you know what this guy's saying? And he was trying to challenge me, but none of this came to me or my face or anything like that, right? So it's kind of like, there's not really much I can do. I've not got any sort of pool with YouTube or anything like that. So that was it. And to be honest, it was like, well, if that's what people want to behave, so be it, right? Because this, to me, it goes back to what I was saying about the board. People can't stand their lifestyles being challenged, right? If they're making money or they're getting, attention or kudos or whatever, and somebody challenges that, you better watch them fight, And that's exactly what happened with the board as well, mark my words. So then it comes to Monball and publisher and Amazon and retail outlets. All of a sudden, the retail outlets were like, we're not happy with the content of this. Now, that's never happened to me, ever, right? There's never been, because how they work with the retail outlets is, I'll get a percentage and they'll get a percentage, right? Of course, I mean, that's how it works, eh? So, and by all retail outlets, I'm talking about the likes of Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Waterstones and that, right? But all of a sudden, none of them wanted to entertain it, right? And I was kind of like, and it gave me some, and contained within this book, right, is a legal letter, right? And this is what Amazon jumped on and said, we can't print that. So what do you mean you can't print it? Now, the legal letter is from 13 years ago, so it's not like it's an ongoing court case or nothing like that, right? And I sort of spoke to my publisher, and they were like, yeah, we don't know what's going on here, but there seems to be like a block on everything. So the publisher can still sell it, because they're no in Britain, but everybody else is refusing to sell it. So it's kind of like, now, not only that, but when you're publishing books with places like Amazon or they're distributing it, right, they'll normally take 3-4 hours to review the content. It'll be a bot that'll do it, AI, boom, 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 fine. As you know, it was taking weeks to get any kind of what's going on, just pending. And then they came back with this, and of course, by this time, people have ordered signed copies and the process has begun and all that. And there is a period where I'm thinking, I might not even get this book out. It's just, to even get copies of it, kind of thing. So that was that. And then I got a proof copy sent by Amazon, one that's, I'm not going to with me, but it would basically say over here, like, not for resale or anything like that, right? And I was like, oh, great. And then they were like, no, this is a rejection. Now, the funny thing about it is, and I'm not really sure I should say this, but I'm going to use for the higme. They had no objection to the content in the Kindle version, which is exactly the same. So, again, somebody playing funny buggers. And these are the obstacles that are now put in front of me. It's within life as well. Believe you, when you guys know and all that, and the times I've had to move house and all that kind of thing. But it has literally got to the stage when doing this stuff, especially, but in other aspects of my life as well, where if I put 1 foot forward, there will be somebody trying to trip me up.
Yeah.
And if that was 30 years ago, right, the old school way would be, right, who's doing it? Let's go. You can't do that now, right? And it's daft anyway, because, sometimes I also think like, it's just a book. It's not Mein Kampf. It's just a fucking book. It's just a film or whatever, and yet people are ready to can lose their liberty over stopping me type thing, So after a lot of kind of book behind the scenes and all that kind of thing, I managed to get the pre-order books sent to me to sign, and the first day that went out today, and then it'll be Monday and Tuesday, probably Wednesday, because it's a big order and it's a lot of hassle for signing, and then, you know, I'm the one that's addressing them and sending them that. It's not like I've got legions of staff already to just jump through and I say, fucking how high, you know, or whatever. But so that's why it's taken about a week or so longer than I would have liked it to have, you know, been in the hands of people. It'll still come out on the publisher website, and I'll obviously blast that out and all that kind of thing. But it's definitely not going to be out anywhere else, because somebody somewhere has decided, no, that's not happening. And, you know, the dark arts, that if you tell people, and I'm not going to go into them all here now, they just didn't believe it, because they didn't live in that world. They didn't know what certain people are capable of and all that kind of thing, and what can be done, and etc., etc., etc. And that's why I kind of was like, this will probably be the last one, because it's unbelievably difficult to do anything now. Unbelievably difficult. More difficult than I never knew what I was doing. You know? The more that I've been what I was doing, and the more that I've been like, the people maybe realise that, oh, he's not gone away, then the bigger the obstacles have become. And the other thing is, the reality is, and you guys know this, the climate has changed. People are no interested in anything to do with Sevco, the old Huns, or what referees or that, because Celtic are winning trophies and leagues and all that kind of thing. And that's increasingly
Shameful.
what football's became just about, just winning. You know, it used to be, just in a last point about football, you know, we want to win, but we want to play well, what do people aren't interested in that now. You just see it in England and all that. Throw a long ball in the box, hope for the best. Ken, that's where football is. You know, I watched Brentford against Manchester United today. It's a Premier League fixture, involved Man United, Brentford, blah, blah, blah. Atmosphere was absolutely appalling. Brentford are scoring goals against Man United, and there's people standing there. You know, so that is people who didn't want to fight, people who didn't want to stick their head above the parapet, and people who didn't want to be associated with me. Now, I'm not crying about that, because I've had a hell of a run with all this kind of stuff, and believe you me, anybody watching this would hate me if they knew the perks that I'd got for this. I've obviously had drawbacks as well, like the two of yous, but that's where things are at now. So hopefully that explains what the hell's been going on and how hard it's been, and that the books will come out and all that. But as I say, dark forces are raging against it.
Do you know, Paul, I think the saddest thing of all with that is that I don't want to be presumptuous, but I think going back to what we were talking about, it's no your enemies that are, it should be the ones that should be on our side of this, that are probably been most obstructive more than most, that they don't like you telling the truth, like you said about Robert Kelly's doorstep, when people within Celtic Park who had created a narrative that they had made money out of, and people had swallowed, we created for dinner tables, and that was it. And that's the saddest indictment. And it ties in, Paul, with the new, and exactly why, if there's any fucking man, woman, or child out there that is still on the side of the board against yourself or anybody else that's out there fighting for Celtic day in, day out, because that's what you're doing. That's what we're trying to do.
That's the thing. The issue for me is that nobody comes up to your face and goes, "That's wrong. I can prove otherwise." Whatever. They just work away behind your back.
Yep.
And see, if I was like single and less blind and all that kind of stuff, I would take action. I fucking would. I've done it before. I do it again. But it's not my choice anymore. Family, etc. I'm getting older, etc., etc., etc. I owe my family a life. You know what I mean? Because they've suffered big time. You know, they've suffered as a family. Because when you've got that kind of pressure on you, and I'm not talking about my immediate family in terms of a wife for that, because she would kill anybody. I mean, you see her 4 she'd be boom, boom, that'd be it. But, you know, my sons and my man, all that kind of thing, they've all suffered because of this.
Yeah.
And that means, and it's like anything, you know yourselves, when you've got that kind of pressure or whatever, it doesn't make the relations in the house or between each other that great either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of time to draw a line, but this will still come, and that's where we are just now, and I'll update it as it goes. But Naz, do you have the questions ready to get a lighter note, hopefully?
I'm ready to go. Okay, so the first question is from the aforementioned Peter McAllister.
Oh, Jesus.
So the question was what has happened to our youth pathway? He's then caveated, with an academy and surely best resourced scouting network in Scotland, why are we so bad at producing our own regularly? And why are we so bad at retaining youth players who show real promise?
It's funny, I seen a thing, was it today? They were talking up the Paradise Windfall, and it's 30 years since it's started, and they said they've donated £12 million to the youth academy, right? I'm not going to say any more than that, but it is laughable, but that's another story, right? And of course, the commentator then goes, "Oh, aye, because we've got James Forrest and Callum McGregor and Kieran Tierney, you know, and now we've got Donovan." And it's like, well, first of all, you can't include Donovan. He's played 3 games, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other 3, that's over a 15-year period,
Mm-hmm.
right? I watched a guy for Brentford today who was absolutely brilliant. A guy called Aaron Hickey, who was in the Celtic Academy and was released. Wait, it hurts, whatever, right? I completely agree with Peter. Before you guys jump in here, right? My thing has always been, right? We cannot outspend the elite in Europe, especially with this fucking board, right? So it's never going to happen. We won the European Cup with 11 Scottish players, 9 of whom came through our academy. That, to me, is the only pathway to European success again.
Yeah.
We have not even attempted that probably since 2000. I just didn't understand it. I do not understand it. What we've instead done is used the academy to be a player trading model that benefits a select few people in bonuses and dividends. That's it. You know, and finally, we had a guy, Sean McCardle, looked great at the end of last season, no seen this season.
Mm-hmm.
So what chance have they got? Davey, what do you think?
Well, do you know what? See, I know we wind Big Peter up, but he's one of the most passionate Celtic men, and he reads between the lines, and he brings up great points week after
He
week.
does. He always does.
All you have to do is you look at the stats where they're counteracting that with saying £30 million in 30 years. Andy Robertson, there's another one that we've had in our grasp. We could have made 25 million of that. There's Ben Doak talking about him. If we had invested and looked after our youth in the past, Colby Donovan, he's only in the team, he's been forced in there. He's no
Exactly.
been,
And by the way, sorry to
he's
cut
no
you off,
made it.
Davey, that is exactly how Kieran Tierney got in the team.
Yeah.
Because Emilio Eziguirre was injured,
Yeah.
and then we signed on loan Tyler Blackett, and he was garbage,
Yeah.
so they put Tierney in.
Yeah.
That's exactly how Donovan's got in as well.
Yeah, and I mean, and we all know, I mean, it's soul destroying. Nas touched on that today. I mean, that boy, I mean, you're looking for somebody go into that team the new and show a bit of drive. And he was missing the day. I mean, we spoke about it earlier on that these kind of guys, when they're youthful, they don't give a fuck. They just play their heart out week in, week out. And I think the day was a sad indictment that it's going to be a sign of the times that Ralston is probably now going to be more than likely be in there more often than not. When Johnson comes back, we all love AJ, and quite rightly so for his performances, but these boys aren't getting treated with respect, and we're no producing players for the first team. And you look at the talents that we've let go, there's no pathway now to the first team unless somebody drastic, you get 2 injuries. That's the only way that the boys are going to get a chance nowadays.
Well, because Davey went on forever there, Naz, the only question I'll ask you from it is, would you wear double denim?
Uh, if I could look like Jota and pull it off, then yes.
Well, yeah. You were claiming to look like Jota a couple of weeks ago when you changed your haircut.
Maybe he played football, mate. No, for the looks. Just on
Right,
this question, when Peter was talking about best resourced, we know that the club don't put money in if they can't help it. Just as a little aside, when you talk about the Celtic women's team, thinking about the amount of money that we've got, our women's team struggles to sign players because lack of investment. It's across
yeah.
the board. And that question,
Safeco but put in far more money to their women's team than Celtic
Mhm.
do.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. And also Glasgow City. There's no
Yeah,
excuse for Celtic not to be investing in that team.
yeah,
But that question that Peter put up had a bit of a interaction. Jordan Boyle, he's basically made a really good point here. He says it seems that the Celtic way is ex-players for jobs for the boys.
yeah.
No disrespect to Stephen McManus at all, but they aren't the best coaches we could get. Are they the best coach you get? Probably not. It's just lazy from an outdated bunch of old peas. You can substitute your own swear word there on the board. We need to modernise with fresh ideas, not captain of industry Brian Wilson or Lowell's old boss Tom Allison. It needs cleared out. And
Uh,
obviously, we know that with Maloney coming in, it's just basically anyone that's played for the club previously or coached is cycled back in because it's easy, it's cheap, you're not going to rock the boat, and it's certainly not bringing fresh blood and fresh thinking into the academy.
what are you reading the questions and fucking answering them now? There was a film out about 20 years ago with Stephen Fry and all that mob, and it was called Peter's Friends. That's the answer. Davey, you're looking perplexed and puzzled by
I'm
that.
I'm going to I'll be going to have a wee look up of that
No,
after the
no, no.
show
No,
finishes.
didn't overthink it. Peter's
Peter's
Friends.
friends,
That's
Big
what you're
Lawwell. Oh, aye, obviously Lawwell. Just on
Fucking
that,
hell.
no,
What's the
no,
next
just
question,
all
Naz?
right, okay. Skip, skip, skip.
Top of the league, eh?
No, no, no.
Okay. Now, the next question we've got is from Frankie Johnson. Do any of you boys think that these planned silent processes will only affect the players on the park? The board has spent over 70 million in the past 2 seasons, albeit this season
What?
wasn't a good window. No, I know, I was surprised myself. This wasn't a good window, and luckily for now, that mob across the Clyde are worse. The board don't give a shit about the supporters. Will only be more defiant Al whilst Dermot Desmond is away enjoying the Ryder Cup.
Um, was Frankie the old core Rangers accountant by any chance? 70 million over the last year? No. I mean, look, it's a big picture. It's as simple as that. The mantra is back to team side of the board. And quite frankly, if you're playing for Celtic, you shouldn't need supporters. You should be good enough to do the job that you're getting paid for. I don't know what you think, Davey.
Aye, I mean that's it. End of the day, it's the quality that we should be seeing on the park, and the qualities what we're watching is dwindling. The shirt doesn't shrink to fit inferior players, but sadly that's what we're seeing, and it's getting worse. So the figures, you can fucking throw as much money as whatever about as well. We were talking about Engels here, so your 11 million man and whatever else is no kicked up offer is. It's all about quality, and we're not seeing it now. We're just not seeing it.
Davey, did you actually forget what the question was? It was would the fans' protest affect the players?
Well, going back to that, but I was talking
You were talking shite. Now, come on.
well, you're talking about the day. Is there a case for that today then? Did that affect their performance today? No, I don't think so, because that's what we've been watching before the protest. So
I think that performance would have guaranteed 12 minutes of silence regardless, to be quite honest, at the start.
yeah.
But there you go. What's the next one, Naz?
The next one, just a final question from
Okay.
Thomas Coughlin, more of a statement. I was quite happy with the draw, the away draw. So he's talking about Belgrade. As for the silent protest, I'm not sure. I'm an old guy now. I don't think I would. I'm an old guy now. I do think I would like to cheer on the team as I've always done. So I think
Who
we
was
can.
that from, did you say?
That's from Thomas Cochrane.
Right, okay. Well, I mean, I think everybody's prerogative is whatever they want. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago there were people talking about no buying season tickets and that, and a guy says to me, "Oh, I'm feared if I do." I said, "Well, didn't no buy it then?" You know what I mean? It's at the end of the day, it's about what your aspirations are for Celtic Football Club, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm really kind of apt to hand this over to Davey because every time he's answered a question, it's went on for about 2 hours.
Well, quickly, you've got your people like Thomas who are set in their ways. They've been watching Celtic for years upon years. They've seen protests and what have you in the past. They'll be reluctant to change their ways of thinking. But Thomas, I think that guys like you are the prime example, the people that should be getting behind the protest now and giving us the support, giving the fans the support to make the changes to make Celtic better. But I respect your opinion and I see where you're coming from.
What I would say is he's probably clean shaven, Davey.
Well, I know.
Don't you
That's
ever come
cool.
on a podcast again and that scruffy fucking cat weasel fucking beard, you prick. But we've run out of time, so we can't update for Palestine, unfortunately. Just free Gaza. But thanks to Naz and Davey for showing up. No putting in a sick note. No limping along. Trying to fucking pretend, oh, I'm injured and all that kind of thing. And hopefully we'll see you next weekend and hopefully better fare. But with this Celtic team, who knows? Goodbye.
See you later.
See you later.